James, are we good?
Yeah, we should be starting here any second. You can start.
It does say it's streaming on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to call our April 21st, 2020 Heartland Township board meeting. Call it to order, and I'll have the clerk please call the roll.
Supervisor Fountain,
Here.
Treasurer Horning,
Here.
Clerk Chopu here, Trustee Collier,
Here.
Trustee Germain. Absent, Trustee Harper,
Here,
Trustee Petrucci,
I believe that's him, but he's on mute.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of our agenda this evening.
Kathy Horning, so moved.
Support, Joe Kalani.
Treasurer Horning on the motion, Trustee Kalani. Is there any questions? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Call to the public. Anybody at call to the public this evening? But maybe if you can.
Frank is muted
Yep, Frank's muted.
there.
There you go. Yep.
There, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to just briefly do a call to the public, if for no other reason than to try out this new technology. And I think you're to be congratulated for implementing this and seeing, we'll see how it works. Yeah, obviously, we're in the midst of a pandemic. I don't know whether I can share something on here or not. Can I?
Public cannot share a screen, no.
Okay, that might be a good feature to implement. At any rate, that we're in the midst of a pandemic that is going to change the way things happen. And I would say, obviously, our businesses are threatened like never before. And whatever problems Heartland may have had prior to this pandemic, those problems are still there, amplified possibly many times over. I don't want to rehash the things, but the attempt by the Heartland Business Association to try and bring about a better business climate. I just want to let you guys know that we're fast learners. You made it real clear that you weren't interested in working with us in order to bring about constructive change in the business climate. You've done some things in the interim that, such as taking away the business surveys as though they never existed and simply declaring Heartland to be business friendly without making structural changes. But let's just make it clear that we listen to you. And so we are, all sit-down restaurants in Heartland are now face threats to their very existence in this post-COVID-19 environment. There's going to be, unless there's some dramatic change, the entire Heartland business community is seriously threatened. So I don't know if that's sunk in with everybody yet, but it's very real. Obviously, when I say we, Walden Woods Properties and our enterprises face serious threats to our very existence. For instance, how do banquets and weddings go on? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that, but it means that how does a sit-down restaurant survive with the rule? Heartland could lose all of its sit-down restaurants. Doesn't have that many, but it could lose them all. Certainly, our wedding business could disappear. So it's going to have a real impact on Heartland, almost no matter how it plays itself out. We're fielding 3 candidates to run for the Heartland Township Board. When I say we're fielding it, we're supporting them, because we think there needs to be a change on the Heartland Township Board. That's because we listened to you, that our reading is that you were not interested in making the kinds of changes to make Heartland have a better regulatory environment and business climate. That's our job, to try to make sure that Heartland has a better business climate. And so we're going to work to do it. We'd still like to have some of you who are incumbents to be supportive of the kinds of changes that are necessary if there's going to be constructive change that will truly make a difference. So if anybody of the current members of the Township Board are interested in improvement, give us a call. But at any rate, that's what we're about. We welcome an expression of interest. We believe that the positions we have are mainstream Republican positions. They're not some far out positions. They're mainstream Republican positions that are based on free enterprise. So that's pretty much what I have to say. I wanted to let the record show that we're willing to work with a constructive board, but we believe that without these kinds of changes, Heartland literally could be left with, you all know the situation. Kroger is not committed to Heartland. Its lease expires in the next 2 to 3 year period, and they could well be gone. Ramco has tried to develop, and they're in the recent business study or commercial study that was done. They had a little problem expressing Ramco because Ramco didn't qualify as a shopping center. After 10 years, it didn't qualify in their study because they only have one retail store. So at any rate, it's very real. There's problems in the business climate, and we're committed to trying to see if we can bring about constructive improvement in that climate. And we'd welcome some members of the Township Board in supporting our position. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time for letting me talk. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any.
We would not have any comment this evening, but thank you for your time this evening. Anybody else that called to the public this evening? I don't see. James, did you see anybody?
No.
Okay.
There are some who are muted. If they wanted to speak and weren't recognized, you may want to try to unmute yourself.
Okay. All right. I don't see anybody else, but thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is approval of our consent agenda.
So moved. Glenn?
Support, Joe
A
Kalani.
motion by Glenn Harper, second by Trustee Kalani. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Unanimous vote. Thank you. James, our next item is a resolution to the governor. You said that this will be available. Everybody on the board has seen the resolution. Do you think it would be appropriate for us to maybe show that, and if you wanted to read it, or what would be the best way to handle this?
I can. The agenda was updated this afternoon, so you have it. I don't know if the board would prefer to make a motion and second first. I can read the draft that's presented, or I can share it on the screen, whatever is your pleasure.
I move resolution urging Governor Whitmer and the Michigan legislature to protect public health and safety, reopen the economy.
Support.
So I had a motion by Treasurer Horning and a second by Glenn Harper. And before we do the roll call vote, or what would be the appropriate way? Want to read it first and then do the roll call vote?
I can, I'll share the screen here real quick. So I don't know if you want me to read it, but
Yeah, James, why
Yeah.
don't you just read it? And then obviously this will be available for anybody that would like to have a copy of it.
Whereas the global COVID-19 pandemic has thrust the state of Michigan into a public health emergency that requires bold actions. And whereas the state of Michigan also faces an economic crisis requiring a similarly healthy response. And whereas Governor Whitmer issued Executive Order 2020-42, restricting and prohibiting significant segments of personal and commercial activities. And whereas the restraints of Executive Order 2020-42 exceed clear guidance developed by health experts through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to mitigate the transmission of the virus. Whereas national health experts are now beginning to offer further criteria and guidelines based on data and science for phased openings on a county by county basis. And whereas many businesses can follow such guidance and further mitigation practices while still avoiding activities that jeopardize the health of their employees and customers. And whereas confirmed cases of COVID-19 are disproportionately concentrated in a fraction of Michigan's 83 counties, all under the same restrictions of Executive Order 2020-42. And whereas Heartland Township supports the countless ongoing efforts of responsible Michiganders to combat the spread of this virus, and whereas Heartland Township also advocates for the economic health and viability of its residents and business community, now therefore be it resolved by the Heartland Township Board of Trustees that Heartland Township hereby supports coordinated public health directives proportional to differing regional conditions. That Heartland Township hereby urges Governor Whitmer and the Michigan legislature to work tirelessly to safely reopen the economy. That the Heartland Township clerk is hereby directed to transmit a copy of this resolution to Governor Gretchen Whitmer, State Senator Lana Tice, State Representative Hank Vaupel, and the Michigan Townships Association.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? I don't see anybody with any comments. Will I have the clerk please call the roll?
Treasurer Horning,
Yes.
trustee Collier,
Yes.
Supervisor Fountain,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Petrucci. Absent. Trustee Jermaine. Absent. Clerk Schofield, yes.
Thank you. And James, that would be, you're going to distribute that or Larry will distribute that to the appropriate people tomorrow.
Yeah, well, an admin committee, we can talk about a news release with that probably
Okay.
tomorrow too.
All right, very good. Okay, we next on our agenda is board reports. And I'll start right here. Who's on my screen first? Glenn?
No report.
Treasurer Horning?
No report.
Trustee Kalani?
No report.
Clerk Shofu?
No report.
And I don't have any report. And I think that was everybody that was here tonight, correct?
Yes.
I don't think Joe Petrucci or Matt Germain are on the meeting. At this point, we'll take a brief recess, just like we would be at the Township Hall, and then we'll do our manager's report. And I believe it's just going to be a real short wrap up. So James and team, thanks for putting this out there. I know it's a little awkward for all of us during this time, but it sounds like this went actually quite smooth this evening for our first attempt. And we will continue to do this, and hopefully our next meeting, I mean, if we have to in the future, I can see at some point in the not too distant future that we're going to start getting back to some type of normalcy. Might not be the next 2 weeks, but perhaps the end of May. So with that, James, we will take a brief recess and we'll go into our manager's report.